बिस्मिल्लाह। औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। इन्नल्लाहा मलाइकतु युसल्लूना अलन नबी या अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू सल्लु अलैहि वसल्लिमू तस्लीमा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व आलि मुहम्मद व अज्जिल फरजहुम। औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। अन जाबिर इब्न अब्दुल्लाह अंसारी अन फातिमत ज़हरा अलैहा सलाम बिन्ते रसूलिल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि व आलिहि क़ाला समिअतु फातिमतु अन्नहा क़ाला दख़ला अला अबी रसूलिल्लाह फ़िल बादिल अय्यामी फ़क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैकी या फातिमतु फ़क़ुल्तु अलैका अस्सलाम क़ाल इन्नी अजिदु फ़ी बदनी दुअफ़न फ़क़ुल्तु लहु इज़्ज़ुका बिल्लाहि अबताहु मिन दुअफ़ी फ़क़ाल या फातिमतु ईतिनिल बिलकिसाइल यमानी फ़ग़त्तैनी बिही वअतैतुल बिलकिसाइल यमानी फ़ग़त्तैतु बिही वसिरतु अंज़ुरु इलैहि व इज़ा वजहु यतलहु कानु बद्रु फ़ी लैलति तमामिही व कमालिहि। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। फमा कानत इल्ला साअतुम व इज़ा बिवलदी अल हसन क़द अक़बल व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैकी या उम्मा फ़क़ुल्तु अलैका अस्सलाम या क़ुर्रतल ऐनि व समरति फ़वादी फ़क़ाल या उम्मा इन्नी अशम्मु इन्दकी राहियतन तय्यबा कअन्ना राहियतु जद्दी रसूलिल्लाह फ़क़ुल्तु नअम इन्ना जद्दका तहतल किसाई फ़अक़बल अल हसन नहवल किसा व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या जद्दा या रसूलल्लाह अतज़ानुहु ली अन अदख़ुल मअका तहतल किसाई फ़क़ाल वअलैका अस्सलाम या वलदी व या साहिबल हौज़ी क़द अज़िनतु लका फ़दख़ल मअहु तहतल किसाई। फमा कानत इल्ला साअतहु व इज़ा बिवलदी अल हुसैन क़द अक़बल व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैकी या उम्मा फ़क़ुल्तु अलैका अस्सलाम या वलदी व या क़ुर्रतल ऐनि व समरति फ़ुआदी फ़क़ाल ली या उम्मा इन्नी अशम्मु इन्दकी राहियतन तय्यबा कअन्ना राहियतु जद्दी रसूलिल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि व आलिहि फ़क़ुल्तु नअम इन्ना जद्दका वक़अका तहतल किसाई फ़दना अल हुसैन नहवल किसा व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या जद्दा अस्सलामु अलैका या मन इख्तरअहुल्लाहु अतज़ानु ली अन अकूनु मअकुमा तहतल किसाई फ़क़ाल वअलैका अस्सलाम या वलदी व या शाफ़िअल उम्मती क़द अज़िनतु लका फ़दख़ल मअहुमा तहतल किसाई। फ़अक़बल इंद ज़ालिका अबुल हसन अली इब्न अबी तालिब व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैकी या बिन्ते रसूलिल्लाह फ़क़ुल्तु अलैका अस्सलाम या अबुल हसन या अमीरुल मोमिनीन फ़क़ाल या फ़ातिमतु इन्नी अशम्मु इन्दकी राहियतन तय्यबा काना राहियती अख़ी व इब्न अम्मी रसूलिल्लाह फ़क़ुल्तु नअम हा हुवा मा वलदैका तहतल किसाई फ़अक़बल अलीयुन नहवल किसा व क़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूलल्लाह अतज़ानु ली अन अकूना मअकुम तहतल किसाई क़ाल लहु अलैका अस्सलाम या अख़ी व वसी व ख़लीफ़ती व साहिबल लिवाई क़द अज़िनतु लका फ़दख़ल अलीयुन तहतल किसाई सुम्मा अतैतु नहवल किसा व क़ुल्तु अस्सलामु अलैका या अबता या रसूलल्लाह अतज़ानु ली अन अकूनु मअकुम तहतल किसाई क़ाल वअलैका अस्सलाम या बिन्ती व या अबिदती क़द अज़िनतु लकी फ़दख़लतु तहतल किसाई। फ़लम्मा इक्तमलना जमीअन तहतल किसाई अख़ज़ा बिरसूलिल्लाह बतल फ़िल किसाई व मा बियदिल युमना इला समाई व क़ाल अल्लाहुम्मा इन्ना हाउलाई अहलुल बैती व ख़ास्सती व हाम्मती लामहुम lahmi व दमहुम दमी युअलिमुनी मा युअलिमुहुम व यहज़ुनुनी मा यहज़ुनुहुम अना हर्बुन लिमन हरबहुम व सिल्मुन लिमन सालमहुम व अदुव्वुन लिमन आदाहुम व मुहिब्बुन लिमन अहब्बाहुम इन्नहु मिन्नी व अना मिनहुम फजल सलवातिका व बरकातिका व रहमतिका व गफरानिका व रिदवानिका अलैया व अलैहिम व अज़हिब अनहुम रिस्सा व तहरहुम तत्हीरा। वक़ाल अल्लाहु अज़्ज़ा व जल्ल या मलाइकतु व सुक्कान समावाति इन्नी मा खलक़तु समाअ ममनियता वला अर्दन मुदियतन वला क़मरन मुनीर वला शमसन मुदियतन वला फल्कन यदूर वला बहरन यजरी वला फुल्कन यसरी इल्ला फी मुहब्बतिल हाउलाइल खमसतिल लज़ीना हुम तहतल किसा। फ़क़ाल आमीन जिब्राईल या रब्बी व मन तहतल किसाई। फ़क़ाल अज़्ज़ा व जल्ल हुम अहल बैत नबुव्वा व मादन रिसालाहुम फातिमा व अबूहा व बालूहा व बनूहा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद। फ़क़ाल जिब्राईल या रब्बी अतज़ानु ली अन अहबतु लिल-अर्ज़ि लकुनु मअहुम सादिसा। फ़क़ाल अल्लाहु नअम क़द अज़िनतु लक फ़अबतल अमीनु जिब्राईल वक़ाल अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह अल अली अल आला यक़रक़ु अस्सलाम व यख़सु बितय्यतिल वल इकरामी यक़ूलु लक व इज़्ज़ति व जलाली इन्नी मा खलक़तु समाअन ममनियता वला अर्दन मुदियतन वला क़मरन मुनीरा वला शमसन मुदियता वला फलकन यदूर वला बहरन यजरी वला फुल्कन यसरी इल्ला लिअजलिकुम व मुहब्बतिकुम वक़द अज़ुनु ली अन अदख़ुला मअकुम फ़अतज़नु ली या रसूल अल्लाह। फ़क़ाल रसूल अल्लाह व अलैकुस्सलाम या अमीन वही अल्लाह इन्नहु नअम क़द अज़िनतु लक। फ़दख़ल जिब्राईल मअना तहतल किसाई फ़क़ाल लिअबी इन्नल्लाह क़द अवा इलैकुम यक़ूल इन्नमा युरीदुल्लाहु लियुज़हिबा अन्कुम रिज्सा अहलिल बैति व युतह्हिरकुम तत्हीरा। सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मुहम्मद। फ़क़ाल अलीयुन लिअबी या रसूलल्लाह अख़बिरनी मा जुलूसिना हाज़ा तहतल किसाई मिनल फ़ज़्ल इंदल्लाह। फ़क़ाल नबी वल्लज़ी बअसनी बिल-हक़्क़ि नबिय्यन वस्तफ़ानी बिरिसालति नजिय्या मा ज़ुकिरा ख़बरुना हाज़ा फ़ी महफ़िलिन मिन महाफ़िलिल अहलिल अर्ज़ व फ़ीही जमुअन मिन शिय्यतिना मुहिब्बीना इला नज़लत अलैहिमुर रहमा व हफ़्फ़त बिहुम मलाइकतुहु वस्तग़फ़र लहुम इला अन तफ़रक़ू। फ़क़ाल अलीयुन इज़्ज़न वल्लाहि फ़ुज़ना फ़ाज़ू शिय्यतुना व रब्बिल काबा। फ़क़ाल नबी सानिया या अली वल्लज़ी बअसनी बिल-हक़्क़ि नबिय्यन वस्तफ़ानी बिरिसालति नजिय्या मा ज़ुकिरा ख़बरुना हाज़ा फ़ी महफ़िलिन मिन महाफ़िलिल अहलिल अर्ज़ व फ़ीही जमुअन मिन शिय्यतिना मुहिब्बीना व फ़ीही महमूमन इल्ला फ़रजल्लाहु महफ़िल यामिन वला मग़मूमन वला कशफ़ल्लाहु ग़म्मा फिल यामिन वला तालिबु हाजाती इला ख़ज़ियल्लाहु हाजातहु फिल यामिन। फ़क़ाल अलीयुन इज़्ज़न वल्लाहि फ़ुज़ना व सुइदना कज़ालिका शिय्यतुना फ़अज़ू व सुइदू फ़ी दुनिया वल आख़िरह व रब्बिल काबा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा इन्नी असअलुका बिहक़्क़ि मुहम्मद व अंतल महमूद बिहक़्क़ि अली व अंतल आला व बिहक़्क़ि फ़ातिमा व अंत फ़ातिरुस समावाति वल अर्ज़ व बिहक़्क़िल हसन व अंतल मुहसिन व बिहक़्क़िल हुसैन व अंतल क़दीमुल इहसान व बिहक़्क़िल अइम्मतित तिस्अतित ताहिरीन मिन ज़ुर्रिय्यतिल हुसैन अलैहिमुस्सलाम। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद व अज्जिल फ़रजहुम। अल्लाहुम्मा अज्जिल
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
सलमान
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
हाय असगर हाय हाय असगर हाय असगर हाय हाय असगर माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा रात भर चैन से रात भर चैन से किस तरह आया असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। माँ यही सोच के रोती है लहू के आंसू, शहन किस तरह किया होगा तेरे खून से वजू। तीर जब असगरे बे शीर ने खाया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। रात भर चैन से किस तरह आया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। कुछ जली लकड़ियां झूले की उठा लाई थी, बानो जब छूट के जिंदान से घर आई थी। हाल असगर का यूं सुगरा को सुनाया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। रात भर चैन से किस तरह आया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो जिंदगी भर ना कभी साए में बैठी मादर, कहती थी धूप में सोता है मेरा नूर नजर। मेरी तो कब्र पे भी धूप का साया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। पूछती रहती थी हर एक से माँ असगर की, मुझको बतला बनी खबर कहाँ असगर की। उसकी तुरबत पे दिया किसने जलाया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। रात भर चैन से किस तरह आया होगा। माँ ने असगर को जो झूले में न पाया होगा। सलवार
मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। अल्लाह से बुलंद सलवात। फिदा हूँ उस पे सलामी है जिसका नाम हुसैन, मेरा मोही मेरा आका मेरा इमाम, मेरा मोही मेरा आका इलाही मेरा सलाम हुसैन।
जो करबला की जमीन पर हुआ था उन्हें का वुरूद, तो फिर के देखते थे खब्र का मुकाम, तो फिर के देखते थे खब्र का मुकाम हुसैन। पनाह लेते थे दुश्मन अजल के दामन में, जो वार करते थे लेकर अली का नाम, जो वार करते थे लेकर अली का नाम हुसैन। फिदा हूँ उस पे रन में आबरू कमा किया मद है, असगर बेज़ुबा किया मद है, भूखे नातवा की आमद है, प्यासे की नीम जा, प्यासे की नीम जा की आमद है। खैमे में शोर होता है, वादा इनका भी वादा इनका भी पूरा होता है। व्यास ने कर दिया है ये आला, गश पे गश आते हैं इन्हें पैगाम, हिलते हैं हाथ पाँव भी कम काम, सीने में अब नहीं समाता दम, गम से मातम ज़दों को सकता है। नन्ना सैयद पड़ा, नन्ना सैयद पड़ा सिसकता है। रो नहीं सकते मुंह बनाते हैं, आंखें उल्टी हुई फिराते हैं, खुश्क कामों ज़बा दिखाते हैं, गुल से रोने के फैल में जाते हैं, मुंह खुला है धड़कती चाहती है, सांस लिया बशर, सांस लिया बशर ना गर्मी के मारे चलता है, नन्हा सा दिल बड़ा उजलता है, दम बदम रंग तो बदलता है, बस नहीं कुछ किसी का जलता है, नाम पानी का सब जो लेते हैं, मुंह को घबरा के मुंह को घबरा के घबरा के देते है बानुए दिल की, मैं किधर जाऊं क्या करूं तदबीर, आए बच्चे मेरी तेरी तकदीर, ना तो पानी मिला तुझे ये शीर, हाल जब देखती है बदरना, कहती है याली, कहती है याली मदद ज़ैना। क्या है पड़ा हम पर, करने पाए न मातम अकबर, कोई दर पेश रहलते अज़मां। अब मैं निकलूंगी ओढ़ कर चादर, लश्कर शाम पास जाऊंगी।
हाले बेशीर का,
हाले बेशीर का
सुनाऊंगी।
कहूंगी जाके में सैदानी, देखो मरता है ये मेरा जानी, तशनगी की है इस पे तुग़यानी। वहाँ क्या खूब की है मेहमानी, करो सराब लाल को मेरे,
पानी दोनों ने हाथ,
पानी दोनों ने हाथ,
दोनों ने हाथ को मेरे
में आए सरवर आलम, झूले से ले रिज़वा को हराम, शैने देखा कि है लबों पर्दा, रोके इरशाद ये किया पैगाम, मेरे जानी मेरे जिगर आओ, चलो मैदान की सैर, चलो मैदान की सैर, चलो मैदान की सैर कर आओ। सरवर दीजा लिया हाथों पे अपना गैरत मां, किया नया हवा में खातिर ख्वाह, और कहा ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, लेके प्यासे को अश्क बार चले,
उस खबर के बे,
उस खबर के बे
करार चले
के कहने लगे इमाम ग़यूर, गाफिल कुछ नहीं है तुमको शऊर, तुम समझना नहीं खुदा को दूर, मेरे बच्चे का कुछ नहीं है कसूर, बेगुनाह की ना जान लो यारो, मेरा कहना तुम्हारा, मेरा कहना तुम्हारा, मेरा कहना तुम्हारा लो यारो। सता पैगंबर का दम निकलता है मेरे दिल भर का, कर करो हल मेरे अजबर का, जान दूंगा मैं तुमको कौसर का, हुरमलाबू लाब मिलता है, ठहरो ठहरो जवाब, ठहरो ठहरो जवाब मिलता है। ने कुर्ता ने करता है क्या गजब जाले, मरता क्यों है बे सबब जाले, पानी मांगे ये हम न अब जाले, सुनता था शेख के न कब जाले, तीर आबरू कमा को मारा,
6 महीने की जा,
6 महीने
की जा,
6 महीने
की जा को मारा।
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد علي وآل علي بالأنصار صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعليمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم والقرآن المجيد وكتاب الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صلوا على محمد. Respected brothers and respected sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Over the past 8 nights, from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have examined the introduction to Tawheed. And we looked at how one can come to understand Tawheed through Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to very briefly do a summary of what we covered and come to the 7th and final stage of Tawheed. And we'll see how everything we've examined comes back to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. We started by looking at the importance of the belief system and how your beliefs is what gives value to everything that you do. For if you do an action which may be perfect from a fixed standpoint, for example, but you don't believe in Allah, then that act has no value. So the first thing we looked at was the importance of one's belief. Then we looked at the ways that one can come rationally to the acknowledgement of the existence of a creator. Then we started looking at the different stages of Tawheed. These stages you could think of are like a circle. They connect each other, but you have to have all of them for Tawheed to be complete. First, we looked at the importance and the belief that Tawheed is from worship. Tawheed fil ibadat. That your ibadat, that your worship is solely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we talked about the niyat. Then we looked at the second stage, the attributes, the essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We asked some questions as to what is the knowledge of Allah, what is the power of Allah, what are attributes that Allah does not possess, for example. Does Allah have emotions? Does Allah speak? This all was under the second stage. And then we looked at the third and fourth stages, that the only one who can tell you to do something, the only one who can forbid you, because He is your manufacturer, He knows what's best for you, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawheed. We continued, we looked at the fourth stage. The only one who really benefits you, the only one who really can deprive you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then yesterday, we looked at stages 5 and 6 of Tawheed. We looked at, for example, the importance of having Tawheed in trusting no one other than Allah, tawakkul. And we ended yesterday by looking that every action, every thought, the goal is to dedicate it solely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My dear brothers and sisters, all of this brings us to tonight. And what's incredible is that this 7th stage happens to fall in line with Shab Ashur. Because of all the characteristics, all of the stages that we looked at, you'll see what culminates. So we looked at stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know what they say the 7th stage of Tawheed is? Total devotion to Allah. Total devotion. You will not find a greater example of Tawheed in full devotion. Total devotion to Allah. Better than the example of Imam Hussein. Total means what? That there's no corners. I'm not cutting any corners. I'm completely in. This example, again, it's a little silly, but bear with me. Tonight we're going to focus on this 7th stage. And you'll notice that everything that I say will be tied to Imam al-Hussein. Total devotion is what? You see, there's a reason why we covered all of these other stages. Not that a person needs to be convinced. You see, a person should go outside, they look at the sky, they should be convinced. Convinced of what? Not that Allah exists, that's easy. But that what purpose could my life possibly have if it's not spent in the way of Allah? Ask yourself, you have this choice. You see the infinite mercy, the power, the greatness, the unbelievable greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your heart only goes towards one place. But here's what's amazing. You see, Islam is not a part-time religion. Bear with me here. We said total devotion. Oftentimes what happens, a reminder to myself, is that we make this religion part-time. I'm in, but I'm not fully in. Like a diet, for example. Diet, okay, tells me, we'll say keto, right? Certain things, keto's too extreme. I'll go ahead, I can do some of it. All of it, no, that's not devotion. Devotion means you're in all the way. You're 100% dedicated. Islam's not part-time. I'll fast, but I'm not going to pray. I'll read Quran, but I won't commemorate Majlis Imam Hussein. I will give sadaqah, I won't give khums. Habibi, this is full. Once you say the shahada, once your heart recognizes La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Ali Waliyullah, total devotion. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. And that's why the narrations say that there was a companion who had a dream. This companion has a dream, he goes to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Says, Mawla, I saw that there was a cloth in the sky. And people were going to this cloth. They were taking some of the cloth. They weren't taking all of it. What does this mean? I don't know. Can you help interpret this dream? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says that this is a sign of the people of Akhir al-Zaman, of Imam Azawajal, of Farajuh Sharif, sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Meaning what? That during the time of the Imam, people are going to take some of the religion, they're going to leave other parts. My dear brothers and sisters, Islam is not a buffet. It's not a salad bowl. I like lettuce, I don't like tomato, I'll put ranch, I won't put sesame seeds. Islam doesn't work that way. And the greatest emphasis, again, why do I say this? Because this is Tawheed. See, total devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is tawheed. Oftentimes people don't understand Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. They say you focus so much on Ahlul Bayt. You know why? You show me a better path. Every word, every action of Ahlul Bayt were only about tawheed. Everything. They say Imam Mawla Ali was fighting one of the battles. I don't want to misspeak which one it was. I believe one of the later ones. And he's fighting, alayhi salam, he's fighting the battle. They stop. They said, there's a man who wants to ask you a question. You're in the middle of this battle. They say, for example, what happened? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
In the middle of the battle, Mawla stops. He says, what's your question? He says, what's Tawheed? Companions got very upset. He said, you stopped the battle to ask the commander of the faithful this question? You know what Mawla says? He says the whole reason that we're fighting this battle is for that question. Imagine. Tawheed is at the center of everything that we do because Allah is at the center. This seventh stage of Tawheed says that 100% I'm in and I'm totally devoted. Now, you see, there's a difference between trying and just saying, look, I'm in part-time. You can't be a part-time Muslim. You know that there are areas that you're trying to improve upon. But the only way you get there are through these steps that we're going to very briefly cover. So there's a difference. When you say totally devoted, your belief is that you're trying to get to that state, but you have to get there. You can't say, look, this diet, this exercise, I'm taking it somewhat seriously. You have to say, look, I know what it takes and I'm trying hard. There's a difference. What are some of the things that help us gain this seventh stage where you're totally devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Number one, as much as you can, my dear brothers and sisters, gain knowledge. Never, ever, ever stop. You know what they say about ilm, Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam? And they say, you can never be satisfied. You can never be full. Food, you can be full. Water, you can be full. Knowledge, ilm. But the ilm that benefits you, not the ilm that is of no use to you. That's why every Friday we recite Surah Jum'ah. Don't be like the donkey carrying luggage. Knowledge allows you to open up the realities of what you're meant to, of why you're meant to be here. You think any of the close companions of Ahlul Bayt, any of them, astaghfirullah Rabbi, you think they were ignorant? People often say, oh, you lovers of Ahlul Bayt, you're not educated people. Allahu Akbar. Jabir alayhi salam wasn't educated. Muqtar alayhi salam wasn't educated. These are some of the top. Hazrat Zuhair ibn Qayn. Knowledge, my dear brothers and sisters, will help you gain ma'rifah. Because how do you establish a relationship to someone you don't know? You have to know them. That love of Allah comes by knowing Allah. Knowing Allah comes through knowledge. Knowledge of how? What? First thing. We talked about the relationship, or at least I talked about my relationship with my cell phone and how it's a little too close to my heart than it should be. Establish a relationship with the Quran. And it's hard. It's hard in what sense? You know, when people say, read Quran, you think, man, number one, I don't understand Arabic. Number two, when I read the English translation, I don't know what's being said. Number three, it's boring. Number four, I don't want to. Let's be honest. At least I just told you my thoughts, right? Okay. First of all, recognize Shaitan is exposed in Quran, right? The story of Shaitan is exposed. You think Shaitan wants you reading Quran? Think about it. Shaitan's trying to pull you to hell, right? When you read Quran, Surah Baqarah, very beginning, Surah 2, verse 30 is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks to the angels. Right in the beginning, I read this, I say, wait a second. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me. Surah Yasin, we read, Allah says, did I not tell you that he's verily your open enemy? I read this, I say, I'm going to backbite now? Why am I listening to Shaitan? I'm going to listen to those things I shouldn't be listening to. I'm going to be rude to my parents. I'm going to leave akhlaq. What benefit does shaitan have? How does that happen? By reading Quran. So the whole thing is, it's about that effort. It's about wanting. Initially, I think, yeah, Quran, I don't want to. First of all, just make the effort and open it. It doesn't have to be physical Quran. Use your phone. There's so many beautiful apps. The point is what? Don't let a day go by where you're not trying to establish a relationship. I'm not saying read Surah Baqarah every day. No. Start off. Let's say someone says, look, I know Quran's important, but I don't read Quran. Okay. So just start and say, let me see if I know the translation of Surah Fatiha, for example. You start with that. Then just read 5 ayats. That's it, 5. You know what's going to happen? Because what did we say in the beginning? The fitrah is programmed to go to Allah. We said that, right? The more you read the Quran, you're going to see your heart open up. But when you're not trying, it's easy. Shaitan says, come on, you have other things you need to do. Don't open that book. Not that book. Quran is essential to finding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's essential. Thaqalain, there's a reason. Both of them have to be held on together. Both of them. We've seen examples of both groups. We've seen examples of those who take Quran, leave Ahlul Bayt. We've seen examples of those who take Ahlul Bayt, leave Quran. We've seen. And then you see those individuals who have a relationship with both. This is the first thing. That ma'rifah, that devotion comes from Quran. Even if it's just a little bit. I start and say, I'm not going to read translation, I just want to read 5 minutes. If I can spend 2 hours playing Mario Kart, not these nights, but let's say before, I can spend 5 minutes reading the Quran, 5 minutes. Just listen to it, 5 minutes. I promise you, you're going to want more. And this is a reminder to myself. That's number 1, Quran. Number 2, we love Ahlul Bayt Muslim, right? You see, don't take everything on the member as your only source to learning about Ahlul Bayt. Let me explain what I mean. My dear brothers and sisters, I can tell you personal experience. There's so much, not me because I'm not very knowledgeable, but a lot of the scholars, there's so much about Ahlul Bayt that they want to share, they can't. Why? There's no time, for example. You only have a limited amount. Why do I say this? Because there are some people who say that all their knowledge comes from the member only. You're gonna miss out. Read Sahifa, for example. Read Nahj, for example. Open up the du'as that are the words of the Imam. You'll see, wow, I'm learning more. You have to do it in combination. Only because you can't say, for example, I'm not gonna go to Majlis because I don't get anything. No, but the Majlis is it's like an appetizer. You're not gonna get. There's no way that someone can explain like that first sermon of Nahjul Balagha on the member. You can't do it justice. You need 40 lectures to explain one sermon. The point is what? That relationship with Ahlul Bayt will increase by learning about them. How do you learn about them? Read their words. Imam al-Hussein al-Islam, Dua Arafah. I wasn't until my 20s until I even had heard of Dua Arafah. I said, I claim that I love Imam al-Hussein so much. For 20 years, I didn't even read his own words. How can me personally say, Imam al-Hussein, I know you? No. Because you can never do justice to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Duas more, Quran more, okay. But it's not meant in a way where it says, you just want everything fun to be taken out of my life. That's what you're telling me right now. No, that's not. Because, why do I say that? You say Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam didn't have, fun is the wrong word, especially I don't want to talk about fun on 9th Muharram. But what I'm saying is, you think that those people who are religious, they don't enjoy their lives? They do. Why? Because of Tawheed. Because they programmed themselves to realize that true happiness comes from serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the only way to learn about Allah is through Quran and Ahlul Bayt. It's very clear. It's not complicated. The issue is doing it. Just like diet and exercise. It's very simple. If I want to gain muscle, if I want to lose weight, if I want to gain weight, the formula is there. Don't eat sugar. Don't eat soda. Eat whole wheat. All the stuff I don't like to do. I really don't. That's why I'm out of shape. Lift. It's very simple. It's not complicated. I make it complicated. I don't want to do it. I want the easy way out. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. These are some of the steps that allow you to totally become devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where it comes in. Because someone asks, how can there be a creation like Hussein? Where else? Who else? I remember there was a poet, he had a beautiful line. He says, they say, the Nusayris, right? They say that Ali is God. This poet says, how great Allah must be if Ali is his slave. Imagine. What did we say? Greatest proof of Tawheed? Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Because they're personified. There's one statement I want to leave you with, and we will go to the Messiah. But there's one statement I want to leave you from Imam al-Hussein. I'm not going to tell you where this is from until later, but I want you to hear this statement. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This statement exemplifies the seventh stage of Tawheed, that Imam al-Hussein is 100% totally devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look what Mawla says. Sayyid al-Shuhada says, what has befallen me is only eased because it is all in the eyes of Allah. That statement crushes the heart. And I haven't even told you where it's from. Where else are you going to find that level of optimism and trust? Why? Because Imam al-Hussein's completely content. He's satisfied. Ask him, astaghfirullah Rabbi, astaghfirullah. Mawla Hussein, do you regret? He'll say, if I 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, infinite amount of times, I'd give everything. Why? Because my life is for Allah. Because I'm devoted to Allah. I'm in 100%. This is Tawheed. Exemplified through Imam al-Hussein. And like I said, we're so blessed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us Ahlul Bayt. Can you imagine how empty your life would be if you didn't have Hussein? All the difficulties from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what gets you through the difficulties and the tribulations? You remember Karbala, right? Horrible tragedies happen, but what do you always tell yourself? It's not nearly coming close to the dust of the afflictions that Imam al-Hussein went through, right? Think about how we all feel. That we're not able to, and this is actually a good transition to what I'm going to talk about, but how do you think we all feel right now that we're not able to be, at Idara, for example, all together? It's love for Hussein alayhi salam that this Tawheed is exemplified. So very briefly, this is the seventh stage. It culminates in a complete devotion that you're in. Recognize, look, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there. He never leaves you. It's us who leaves him. We're the ones who turn our back on Allah. Allah's always there. We have to learn about Ahlul Bayt through Quran and through du'as, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My dear brothers and sisters, I won't take up too much time. We'll be getting to the Messiah. There's just one thing about Ashura tomorrow that I do want to mention. And before I mention this, I will say, obviously, the most important part is that you have to follow the medical guidance. So what I'm about to say, follow the medical guidelines, that's first. So what I'm saying is really directed to those people who say, it's not the same. Ashura tomorrow is not the same. Yes, on the surface that may be true. But don't ever let the fact that we can't go to Idara lessen the musibat of Ashura. Ashura's musibat doesn't change. Why do I say this? Because those individuals, this is a reminder to myself, who will be at home, will say, well, if I was at Idara, I would be spending the entire day in mourning. Doesn't matter if you're at Idara or not. If you spend it at home, act as if you're at Idara. Why? Because it's easy to say, well, I'm on my computer, and maybe I may also pull up NFL.com in the beginning as well. It may happen. Maybe I check the news. Tomorrow's Ashura. Don't let this pandemic take away from the fire in your heart burning for the love of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. But it is different. There are sacrifices we're having to make. But just because we're doing it in our homes doesn't mean that Ashura is not the same. This is the key. Yes, I may not be at Idara. I may not be with the 3,000 people that I normally have. I may not have that same Dalit Jawah that I have. Ashura's Masiba doesn't change because of that. This is the key. And this is a reminder to myself. It's very difficult. I never thought every Ashura I spent at Idara, my whole life, every Ashura. Pray inshallah we do Ashura in Karbala. I never thought this would have happened. But it's a reminder that, hey, the Musibat of Imam al-Hussein is not tied to how many people are there. It's how you honor it in your heart. That's the key. So don't take it any relaxed tomorrow. Act the same way. Wear the same black. Spend the whole day in Amal, in Ma'atam, in the remembrance of Imam al-Hussein, in the Musibat. Do Sham-e Ghariba. Do everything the same. Under guidelines, under medical advice. At your house even. Even if it's you by yourself at your house. Well, it's not the same mahol. The mahol is also in the heart. Don't say just because I can't go to Idara, I'm not going to honor Hussein the same way. Allah. No. Remember, everything happens for a reason, right? There's a test in everything. There's a test in everything. You think that just because there's a little pandemic, that love for Hussein is going to be lessened? But again, I emphasize under the guidance of medical professionals, CDC, for example. So I'm saying those people who are at home, if we're going to, for example, we do Amal at home, just a few people, so it's not the same. No, Ashura doesn't change. That's the key. And why do I say that? Because we talked about total devotion. We mentioned total devotion. The only way that I can understand someone giving their 6-month-old child is that they're totally devoted to Allah. It's the only way that you can explain it. You know what I didn't tell you? I said that Mola said that what has befallen me is only eased because it's all in the eyes of Allah. You know what I didn't tell you? Is that Hussein said that after the arrow had struck the neck of his 6-month-old baby and he's holding the body of Ali al-Asghar in his hands. Then he says that this musibat is the only way that it is eased is because it's in the eyes of Allah. Ya Hussein, everything that you do, dedicated to Allah. This is the night of Ashura. This is Shab-e Ashur, my dear brothers and sisters. Why do I mention the Quran? Because Shab-e Ashur, your Mawla spent that night doing what? Reading Quran, my dear brothers and sisters. Tonight is that night, the last night that Imam al-Hussein would see his family. It's the last night that Rabah would hold Ali al-Asghar. It's the last night that Zainab would see Abbas. The last night, Shab-e Ashur. My dear brothers and sisters, this is no ordinary night. Never ever forget the Musibat of Hussein alayhi salam. And this night, spend this night in the remembrance of Allah. Spend this night doing istighfar. Spend this night listening to the Musibat of Imam al-Hussein. Spend this night listening to the Nohas all night. It's Shab-e Ashur. It's Shab-e Ashur. And why? Because tomorrow's Ashura. My dear brothers and sisters, what happens on the day of Ashura? The narrations say that Mawla is now all alone. Mawla is all alone. Yawm al-Ashura, he says, Hal min nasirin yansurina. There's no response. There's no response from Habib or Zohair or Muslim or any of the companions. Hal min nasirin yansurina. Your Mawla is alone. Your Mawla is ghareeb. Ali al-Akbar, no response. Why? Because his body lay on the floor in Karbala, on the sands in Karbala. There is no Qasim because his body's in pieces. Oh, Abbas's body's by the Furat. Hussein is alone. The Maqdal says, Mawla goes and prepares to fight. He gets and ready to go. But before he goes, the narrations say he goes to give his al-Wada to his 6-month-old son. Now, you know, every creation, they are able to make some kind of sound, some kind of noise, cry, a 6-month-old baby. You know what the narrations say? Mawla goes to the tent of Hazrat Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam, and Sayyidah Zainab brings this baby and says, Oh Mawla, oh my brother Hussein, Rabab says that this baby is not even making any noises anymore, any sounds anymore. You know what the narrations say? It's as if a fish is out of water. You know how the fish gulps for breath because it cannot breathe? This was the state of Ali al-Asghar. Mola takes his 6-month-old child and says, they say, let us just go and ask. This is a 6-month-old baby. There's no way they can be that heartless. I'm saying, the narration say Mola takes Hazrat Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam and goes towards the army of Umar Asad. You know what they say, my dear brothers and sisters? When Imam Hussein presents this 6-month-old baby, Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam was so small that they thought that Hussein was bringing the Quran. They thought Hussein was bringing the Quran because the body of Ali al-Asghar was so small. They say, oh, Hussein is trying to negotiate with us. Mola goes to the camp, to the side of Umar Asad, and he says, Imam alayhi salam says, your quarrel, your fight is against me. Is against me. It's with me alone. I ask you, you tell me, what crime has this 6-month-old baby done against you? All I ask, just a little bit of water for this child. You know when they say that instant, the narrations mention that now the camp of Umar Asad starts to go into chaos. There are some people who hide their face because they're ashamed. Others who start to cry. Others who say, give this 6-month-old child water. This child has done nothing wrong. Give this child water. At that moment, Umar Asad says, Hurmala, come here. We are going to end this now. We are going to make sure that this conversation finishes. What do the narrations say? That Hurmala pulls out an arrow. Some narrations say 3-pronged. That's normally used to slaughter the neck of a camel. I ask you, my dear brothers and sisters, how large is the neck of a camel? How small is the neck of Ali al-Asghar? Narrations say Imam Hussein holds his 6-month-old baby in the air. The wind comes and moves a little bit of the cloth. Some of the whiteness of the neck appears. Hurmala shoots the arrow. The arrow pierces the neck of Ali al-Asghar in the hands of Hussein. Narrations say the blood flows onto the hands of Hussein. He stops. He doesn't know what to do. He cannot believe. He takes his hands. Imam al-Baqir narrates, Mola pulls the water, the blood throws it up to the sky. Not one drop of blood returned back from the sky. They say Mola now is holding the body of Ali al-Asghar. He goes back towards the camp. He cannot. He comes back. He goes back. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Your Mola does this 7 times. Why? Because how does he face Rabab? How does he face Rabab? Narrations say when Mola carries the body of Ali al-Asghar, he goes back to the tent. He pulls his sword. He begins to dig a little grave for his 6-month-old baby. He places the body of Ali al-Asghar inside of this cover. But you know, normally when you bury someone, you have water to put on top of the grave. What water does Hussein have? What water does Hussein have? Narrations say Mola gets on the ground. He places his cheek on the cover of Ali al-Asghar. He begins to cry. The water goes under the grave of Ali al-Asghar. I will leave you with this. I'll leave you with this, my dear brothers and sisters. Sham-e-Ghariba comes. Sham-e-Ghariba comes. Narrations say that Sayyidah Zainab is going to the tent to check on everyone, but does not see one lady in particular. Sayyidah Zainab looks and says, Rabab, where is Rabab? Narration says Sayyidah Zainab goes out and she sees a lady standing alone in the battlefield. Sayyidah Zainab goes and says, Rabab. She says, oh my lady, I have water now for my son Ali al-Asghar. I just want to quench his thirst. I just want to quench the thirst of my baby. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Matam ya Hussein.
आशूर की वो रात वो सन्नाटे का आलम आशूर की वो रात वो सन्नाटे का आलम फितरत की खामोशी में फरिश्तों का वो मातम फितरत की खामोशी में फरिश्तों का वो मातम सोया हुआ रन्ने असदुल्लाह का ज़ैगम
और खून में डूबा हुआ इस्लाम का परचम। अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे, अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे। देखी न गई बच्चों की जब जश्न दहानी, आंखों में खटकने लगी मौजों की रवानी। पानी ने अपना लहू कर दिया पानी, बचपन पे सकीना के फिदा कर दी जवानी। अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे, अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे। कब्जे में थी तलवार के कब्जे में खुदाई, दो हाथ चले थे की तरह ही नजर आई। भाई की बिगा दूर से देखा किया भाई, यूं शाने वफा तूने वफादार दिखाई। अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे, अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे, अब्बास तुझे अहले वफा याद करेंगे। या हुसैन, 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 या हुसैन।
मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। बेटा तुम्हारा कातिल मेरे सामने खड़ा है, जाने क्यों हंस रहा है। चादर भी लुट चुकी है, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। बेटा तुम्हारा कातिल मेरे सामने खड़ा है, जाने क्यों हंस रहा है। चादर भी लुट चुकी है, मुंह किस तरह छुपाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। तेरे झूले को सकीना रो रो के चूमती है, तुझे घर में ढूंढती है। तेरी मौत की कब्र में, तेरी मौत की कब्र में कैसे उसे सुनाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। तेरे झूले को सकीना रो रो के चूमती है, तुझे घर में ढूंढती है। तेरी मौत की खबर मैं, तेरी मौत की खबर मैं कैसे उसे सुनाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। बेटा तुम्हारा खातिर मेरे सामने खड़ा है, जाने क्यों हंस रहा है। चादर भी लुट चुकी है, मुंह किस तरह छुपाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, मेरे लाडले कहाँ हो, सीने तुम्हें लगाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ। आ जाओ चांद मेरे, तेरी प्यास मैं बुझाऊं, असगर मैं तेरी माँ हूँ।
आशूर का सूरज है, क़यामत की घड़ी है। भाई का गला कट था, बहन देख रही है। मकतल में किसी माँ की सदा गूंज रही है। आए मेरे हुसैन मेरी गोद में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा। मेरे लिए ऐलान तू असगर की तरह है, गोदी मेरी गहवारा है बिस्तर की तरह है। इस धूप में दामन मेरा चादर की तरह है। आए मेरे हुसैन मेरी गोद में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा। मैं माँ तू मेरा दिल नहीं सीने में संभलता, नाजुक के बदन तेरा ये जलता हुआ सहरा। और इस पे सितम ये है कि तू रह गया प्यासा। आए मेरे हुसैन मेरी गोद में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा। मैं गोद में ले लूं तुझे सीने से लगा लूं, सीने पे सकीना की तरह तुझको सुला लूं, सीने के तेरे तीर में पलकों से निकालूं। आए मेरे हुसैन मेरी गोद में आजा, आजा मेरे
बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा।
आकर मेरे जानों पे जो सो जाते बेटा, जग की मशाकत के भी पहलू नहीं बदला। अब कैसे तुझे छोड़ दूं मकतल में अकेला। आए मेरे हुसैन मेरी गोद में आजा,
आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा।
तू लेट गया थक के तो इस जलती जमी पर, ये किस काला हूँ तूने मला रूह ए हंसी पर। मत खाओ पे सोलाल तेरी माँ है यहीं पर। आए मेरे हुसैन मेरी गोद में आजा, आजा
मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा, आजा मेरे बच्चे मेरी आगोश में आजा।
या हुसैन
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि या अबा अब्दुल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका रहमतुल लिल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या सय्यदुल वसीन अमीरुल मोमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैकी या फातिमा ज़हरा सय्यदतुन निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा मोहम्मद हसन इब्न अली अल मुश्तबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दुल्लाह अल हुसैन मज़लूम शहीद, अस्सलामु अलल हुसैन व अला अली इब्न अल हुसैन व अला औलादिल हुसैन वाला साहबुल हुसैन। अस्सलामु अलैकुम जमीअ शहदाए करबला, खुसूसन सैयदी मौलाया अबुल फज़ल अब्बास यमना अमीरुल मोमिनीन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैकुम जमीअन अइम्मतुत तिसअत ताहिरीन मिन ज़ुर्रियतिल हुसैन अलैहिमुस्सलाम। अस्सलामु अलैका या गरीबुल गुरबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुइनुद दुअफा वल फुक़रा, अस्सलामु अलैका शम्स शमूस, अस्सलामु अलैका अय्युहल मदफून बिअर्ज़ तूस, अस्सलामु अलैका अबुल हसन अली इब्न मूसा अय्युह रिदा व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैका या साहिबुल अस्र व ज़मान, अल अमान अल अमान अल अमान में फितनत ज़मान। अस्सलामु अलैका या शरीकुल कुरान, अस्सलामु अलैका या इमाम इंस वल जान, अज्जलल्लाहु ताला फरजक सल्लल्लाहु मखरजक व जअलना मिन अवानिक व अंसारिक व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
Hujjat ibn al-Hasan, salawatuka alayhi wa ala alihi fi hadhihi as-sa'at wa fi kulli sa'at waliyan wa hafiza wa qa'idan wa nasira wa dalilan wa aina hatta tuskinahu ardaka tawa وتمتعوا فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد.
दो अनाउंसमेंट्स है, कल 6 बजे से 7